Perfect. So who am I? So I guess I'm the co-founder of Kairos Media. We are an influence marketing strategy agency, but also the co-founder of Kairos Esports. And I guess that's the main thing we were talking about today. Now, we help a significant amount of brands with their entry into a wider esports market. And I'm joined by two amazing panelists to help us with that. Now, personally, I'm an esports investor, but also I've got a wealth of knowledge from the creator side, coming from the background of being a YouTube content creator. This working? Oh. So we've worked with some of the biggest brands in the world, and I'm privileged to say with the likes of Tencent, Activision, Samsung, Ubisoft, Formula One, KFC, our clients which we've previously worked with. And there's a little video which I've prepared which sort of shows a bit more about who we are, what we do, just to give some context to the session. So, lots of cool things we've worked on, and it's been a fun 3 years working with the company. So, esports. Can I just get a quick raise of hands? Who's heard of the topic esports, or who's worked on esports before? Okay. Who's heard of Fortnite, or who has a kid who's playing Fortnite right now? Okay, more. Okay. So, esports, in terms of, I guess as a broader topic, this is the way that we define esports. So it's competitive gaming in an organized format played at a professional level. Now there's typically, obviously, the aim and the goal of winning or a prize pool attached to that versus gaming, which is more casual. There's a whole series of different stats here which shows the way this incredible industry is going. I mean, right now, to give you some perspective, in Korea, esport players are looked at as, they can't really walk down the street without security anymore. These individuals have got nutritionists, they've got therapists, they've got trainers, they've got every kind of support and team house you can imagine. It's no longer just your basement gamer, and I think this video, again, hopefully illustrates just the sheer size of what we're talking about here. And that's a video we just sort of put together for one of our clients just to give some illustration of why this is such a good space to move within. In terms of, again, just to supplement some of those figures, there's now a bigger audience for gaming video across YouTube, Twitch, and some of the major streaming providers than the combination of HBO, Netflix, ESPN, and Hulu. That's a lot of people. Actually, 355 billion hours were watched in 2017, and it's just growing at a phenomenal rate. Again, just to look at the revenue side of the business, over 906 million is in revenue within the period of 2018. Obviously, 40% of that is made up of sponsorships, and it's changing all the time. This is such a fluid industry, and it's a really exciting one to be a part of. In terms of the UK as a whole, the UK, 52% of the UK plays video games. Now, 71% of millennials play games regularly, but also that's around 9 hours per week on average, supported by 5.6 million of UK gamers are 16 to 24. So there's just some key stats there just to show you really what we're talking about. Again, just some more data just to say the future of esports and the fact that actually 28% of fans think that it should be an Olympic sport, and this is Olympic sport, and this is one that we're going to be discussing in the panel very, very shortly. So this is enough about what I think the future is going to be like. I'm very, very privileged to be joined by two amazing panelists who can give us their view of what the future of esports look like. So please welcome Mike Craddock and Heather Dower.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Over here.
It's kind of thing.
Do you want me here? Yeah.
Ladies first.
Thanks. You good there?
So I guess within, obviously we've talked a bit now about, that's really bright. 1 second. So within the esports realm, we've talked now about it's becoming a huge thing. But I think what I really want to understand from our amazing panelists, and first, actually, let's start with the beginnings. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves and start from there?
Sure. I might not be what you think is a typical gamer, tattooed chick, but no, I've loved gaming since I was probably about 7 when I got a Game Boy Pocket and was playing Zelda and Tetris under my duvet, which quickly sparked an interest in technology, but never did I think I'd be able to work in gaming. So I've been involved in UK esports and now global esports for about 8 years, pushing on 9. My most recent role before I worked with ESL, which we'll explain what ESL is in a bit, but I had produced my own global live TV show, which was broadcasted in 50 countries to over 51 million homes as well, on the content where hopefully some of you brands might be interested in eventually coming into. So yeah, just a massive nerd, really. That's me.
Cool. Yeah, so I guess I took a slightly different route. So I decided to drop out of college at 16 and make videos on the internet, to my parents' disgust. But thankfully, it turned into a real job. So I made a YouTube channel. I became an influencer, which is now the term, started making content. Built up my personal audience to about 300,000 subscribers and followers. I did gaming videos, so I literally played Call of Duty for 12 hours a day, and then started working with the likes of Activision, with Xbox, EA, Ubisoft, brands such as that. Figured I was pretty good at the game and better than most people, and decided to pursue being a professional esport player and actually playing at a professional level. Gathered some of my friends together, decided to compete in Call of Duty, and yeah, we became one of the top 4 teams in Europe at that time, and we kind of leveraged our YouTube popularity at that point. So we were the second most popular European team within Call of Duty. I'd say we were a top 4 actually ability. We weren't amazing to say the least. I figured I was spending a lot of time, I needed to grow up a little bit when I became 21, 22. I now own the esport organization. So the esport organization that I used to play for, I effectively bought that back, acquired it, and now run that as the CEO of the team. So we have a professional Call of Duty team, which plays at a global level. It's a top 8 team in the world. We have a professional FIFA team, and also now with the huge growth within Fortnite, we have some of the top Fortnite players on console, on PC at a global level as well. And then we'll also be looking at going into Smite, Dota, and games such as that, which esports is a very big landscape and a lot of games, which I'm sure we'll go into, but that's my esport background and the knowledge there as well.
Amazing. So I guess, just we're looking at this from both a tournament owner, an organizer perspective, but also that perspective of a team owner and sort of the direction which teams themselves are taking, which I think is great. So Heather, Mike, why do you think esports has such a global appeal, and what is driving the huge community behind it? Just can I discuss that a bit?
I mean, young people, that's typically your typical esport viewer, forgive me if I'm wrong here, is 75% male audience, and I don't watch TV anymore. I consume content via Twitch, via Twitter, via Facebook, via Netflix. I never watch TV, and how people now consume content is online. Esports, this is literally what people play day to day. They want to watch their favorite gamer, their favorite professional player. They watch this via Twitch or YouTube or whatever social media platform it may be. And that's also driving the growth of esports. And as a person, I like football, but I don't watch anything else. I actually watch esports. I watch professional Fortnite, professional Call of Duty, and that's kind of, esports is growing huge. When I used to play anyway 4 years ago, there was no prize money. There was not really any viewership. I remember finishing 4th at a tournament and winning 60 quid. I couldn't even pay for my hotel. If I finished 4th now, I'd win about 200 grand. So the level of the prize money that's people like ESL are putting into it as well. Esports is growing at such a phenomenal rate, but it's towards that young millennial demographic. This is how people are watching content on a global level, especially in Asia, USA. That's from my side. This is how people now watch content.
Yeah, and in a way I do agree with you. There is definitely that younger audience, from a global level. And we're not just talking in the UK, this is the behaviour of people all over the world. The reason why I think the industry has really grown is because the people and the companies involved, the brands care about those communities, those people, those individuals, and also the barrier to entry is quite simple. Mass production of consoles make it almost affordable in most homes. On that console, not only can they get free-to-play games such as Fortnite, and that's why you've seen the game as such a success, but also on that console, you will see Netflix, you'll see Amazon Prime. It becomes the hub and the home for not only males but also females. We're also a 3-screen generation. We're not just looking at our TV. We've also probably got our mobile phone and a laptop or a tablet going on at the same time of any age group. I'm talking from 4 years old all the way to my Uncle Paul, who is 52 and loves watching Dota. There's a lot going on, and I think there's this constant source of content. It's always original, it's fresh, it's considerate of their interests, and for that reason, the community are invested, they support it, and it grows. So there's this really healthy cycle going on for probably about the past 5 years, max.
Yeah, I think there's a long way for it to grow. I think we're still, hopefully, we're still at the infancy stage of esports. Yep. I think there is so much more potential for it to grow. You've now got original contents being brought to Netflix or Amazon, and Amazon, etc., purchasing the rights. Facebook are purchasing the rights to actually start streaming, tournaments and gamers and content creators on their platform. And obviously Facebook is a slightly older demographic nowadays. Yeah. So this is now opening esports up to this potential market as well. And I think, I go back and talk to my parents, they have no idea what esports is, but they see it on TV, it's like, oh yeah, okay, I kind of watch this, I kind of get Fortnite. And I think the industry is changing so much, and it's got such a long way to go. But within the last 3 or 4 years especially, the growth has been astronomical. And I think especially now with Fortnite, I know most people in the world are talking about Fortnite, but they have just announced $100 million in prize pools that they're looking to give away next year. That's more than most sports in the world. I think forgive me if I'm wrong, the Dota tournament was last week, and the prize pool was $25 million. Yep. $25 million for playing a video game to most people is obscene, and this is the largest prize pool.
Which was crowdfunded. That's 25 million funded by purchasing in-game things that they get, like signatures of their favorite, casters or hosts, and they get like voice lines, which is like a particular me saying, "Well done, you achieved this." And they funded 25 million for a prize pool, which is broke records again. It's been running for 8 years, and every year they've broken the prize pool for the most money you can get at one tournament.
I think that's the biggest difference between sports, traditional sports, and esports. Esports is so many different, publishers behind it. You got Activision, Call of Duty, you got Valve, etc. They are effectively the community are funding the prize pool. You can't get that in the Premier League, or you can't get that in Wimbledon or something like that. I think it's so community driven. The audience is so involved on Twitch, on YouTube, on every single platform, and it's just continuing to grow.
And I think obviously we've really covered the growth in quite a lot of detail, and obviously, fueling that growth is the arrival of non-endemic brands. Yes. And within ESL, you've had the opportunity to work with the likes of Mercedes-Benz and Vodafone. I mean, I guess it brings back to the question of, for the marketers in the room, what would you say is the best example of a non-endemic brand entering the world of esports?
This is more on your end.
Oh yeah, so ESL, so just as a background, was founded in Germany 20 years ago. Esports has been going on since the 50s. ESL managed to kind of emerge, and we're working with endemic brands, Intel, make the processors for the machines that they're competing on. But with the interest, we as passionate people in esports and gaming also have lives outside that love other brands. So I think what was really amazing is Mercedes-Benz taking the step, leading the way, which is really good with us, as we like to place ourselves as the leading company for tournament organisation. So it was almost like, take our hand, we're going to bring you into this world, and we promise if you stick with us and listen to our advice, you're going to have the best ride of your life. And Mercedes-Benz, McLaren's something else I wanted to bring up. Mercedes-Benz, they got involved, and everyone at first was a bit like, you've got millions of viewers, watching from all over the world, watching the same tournament, watching the same advertisement, and they were a little bit confused at first. So everyone gets on their forums, they're a bit like, what's going on? But they were amazing because they took what they would normally use as advertising on linear broadcasting or on print, and they turned it around and they listened, and they did a campaign called Grow Up, which was a video where it's like, get a proper job, and it's the esports player driving the car, and it's like, get a family, and the trophy's in the back seat, and it's like, we support you in your beliefs in this journey of being an esports player or fan. And the incredible thing about Mercedes is, if you look at the demographic which we've mentioned that watches and consumes esports content, they're not going to go and buy an E-Class sedan that day when they see that Mercedes. What it is we'll be there for you when you need us, which is in the next few years when you're doing really well in your job, be it in esports, in a normal job, we're the car that you can rely on. We're there for you. And they've made some amazing original content, and I just think that was the catalyst for other brands getting involved. And I get really emotional thinking about it, because it was almost like a validation. Like, there's this constant thing of like proving to your parents, I'm going to make it. Like, I'm lucky my dad gets it, but it was like for millions of people across the world, if I can show my parents that Mercedes-Benz is supporting this and having MVP, Best Player Awards, and giving players cars, and doing these really awesome adverts that I'm watching, that's an incredible step forward for the industry.
Yeah, so. I think using that advertisement, I'll plug you a little bit, it did change a lot of how people viewed esports, because again, I might be incorrect here, but it was, this guy got the MVP kill of the game, brought to you by Mercedes E-Class, and then that marketing footprint effectively took to the forum, the forums, people talking about it, and then people posting on Reddit, have you seen this amazing kill? It's like, I've seen this amazing kill, but it's not as good as this Mercedes E-Class, like that.
And that's the best thing. It was a bit of a joke at first online, and then I went to one of our biggest events in Cologne 2 months ago, and behind 3 chaps, they're about 15 and 16, and they're on their phones looking at all the latest Mercedes cars, saying, have you seen the new release on this? I would go for this kind of interior. That's success. That's like, I was like, wow, the impact that's had from a joke online, a bit like, we're not comfortable with this is awesome. Even the on-screen talent were playing up to it.
Yeah, I think it worked really, really good. I think Mercedes is a good example, but although gamers are notoriously Lenovo and Intel and AMD and that type of stuff, but now most big brands are trying to get involved in the space. You've got Audi, you've got Nissan, you've got Visa, you've got MasterCard, you've got KFC, you've got
American Express.
Yeah, there's every brand in the world to some extent will be involved in esports if they want to tap into that millennial demographic. And it is absolutely perfect. There are so many opportunities you can get involved in, whether it's, you compare it to sports, you can use individual talent, athletes, you can use I'll compare it to football just for easy, you can use your Arsenals, which is like your Fnatic and your Dignitas. You can then use actually tournament providers, which is more like the Premier League or the Championship. And then again, you can go completely do something original. You've got Coke Esports who have their own social handle and just interact with people online and really start building that community up. You can interact with people on Twitch, on Twitter, on Facebook. There are so many ways to get into esports. It's not just, let's partner with a tournament provider or an organization. There are so many layers that you can get involved in. And every brand in the world, whether it's a travel airline, they will be involved in some capacity. And this is the very, very, very beginning stages.
And I suppose, talking to, we talked a lot about the much larger campaigns there, so Mercedes, Vodafone, they're big deals, right? They're big global deals. I suppose, specifically more for Mike, in terms of as a team owner, how can brands get involved but not at that scale? How can they try esports without going all in, as it were? And what do you do for brands that differentiates Lightning Pandas from some of the other teams, I suppose?
Yeah, so I guess we are different to an ESL or a Freaks for You or those kind of big tournament providers. So if you're sponsoring a big tournament, you are paying big money. Ultimately, if you're working with individual athletes, so we have agreements. We have a large agreement with Western Digital, who supply processors and that type of stuff. And we looked at their KPIs and what they're really looking to achieve over the next year or so. And it was ultimately building that affinity with their community, grow their own social following, and really start building that audience, but also interaction at their events. So they'll go to local gaming events, whether it's PAX, whether it's TwitchCon, whether it's Gamescom, and they actually wanted more footfall to their stand. So part of our agreement is part of our players or our professional team go to these events with the brand itself. They stay at the stand. They'll have a custom, if they're a professional Fortnite player, we'll have Fortnite, and you can 1v1 our professional players. So everybody gets the opportunity to play a professional Fortnite player. PAX has just gone past. Again, Fortnite had a $1.5 million tournament. We had some of our players actually at the event. They stayed at the Western Digital booth, and anyone throughout the day could go and play our professional player. If you beat them, you got $2,000 worth of free gear. So it completely changes depending on the KPI is. If you're talking to Facebook, they want to increase watch retention or views, and then we can customize a package accordingly for that. I come from an agency background, so it's not just, we'll put a sponsor on our name and that's all we're going to do. We develop custom packages, custom tournaments, custom apparel, giveaways, drive followers to their actually community pages and their Twitter pages, Instagram pages, so they can go from 50k to 200k followers, which might translate into long-term partnerships as well. So again, it completely depends on their KPI, their brief, and what their objectives are.
Absolutely, and I think the esports audience in themselves are different from so many other forms of sports viewership, right? I mean, in terms of targeting, the preferences, their wariness of branded content as well. And we've talked a lot about how you challenge that with Mercedes and how you ultimately got their interaction based on that on Western Digital and how you did that from a team perspective. I mean, what are the key learnings from what should a brand who wants to enter this space do, and how do they interact with the audience?
So I'm very passionate about this, and my first advice always when we hear that a brand, a big company or a small company wants to get involved is we don't want you to assume, because you've seen all the facts and figures on a slideshow, that you're instantly going to get a return of investment. You need to realize what your aim and why your involvement with wanting to be involved in that part of the industry. Now, let's kind of face it, if you're not involved in esports, you're going to eventually come a little bit of an old hat, because esports is going to be one of the biggest and overtake some of the biggest sports and be sort of known as the biggest form of entertainment in the industry. So it's time to kind of warm up to the idea and start asking questions, and ask questions within your department and your team, because this might be something that you pilot, but it might not see a return on investment for the next 2 to 3 years, and you might have moved on to that point. So it's why you want to get involved. Is it that you want to sell units? Is it you want to sell X amount? Great, well then we need to really be careful how we advertise that, because we're clever. We have ad block on. We don't want to hear about you trying to sell units. I will want to buy the unit that my favorite influencer tells me about, that they really generally like and are playing on every day. Is it that I want to become a household brand like Mercedes and know that in 5 years' time, I'm going to expect all these people to love the brand? Is it that I want to just generally support something that is going to be growing and have ad space, or sponsor a really good team? So you have to realize, like, there's so many different pots, and it's not just on screen or on a jersey, as you've mentioned. Yeah. And it's really knowing what you guys want to achieve, and then asking the right questions to the right people that have worked in the industry for years, that have got that kind of pedigree, and kind of just build and formulate a plan, but take your time. And if you don't get the return straight away, stick with it. Don't bring this investment bubble or this idea and plant it and then run away and come back in 5 years' time. It's a journey, and it's a fun one, but it's you've got to be sensitive about it as well. Like, the content has to relate, and you have to get it. You're probably looking at hiring a dedicated person in gaming and esports within your team, is like my best advice.
Yeah, I think so many people just see, as you said, the numbers, the stats, the figures. They're like, oh, this tournament got 20 million views, I need to sponsor it. And then they just put a TV advert and put it in the middle of Twitch or in between games, and it just looks shit. I'm sorry, it doesn't work. Like, the gaming community, they're not stupid. You know, they talk. This isn't like TV where they see an advert and that's it. You know, if there is an advert, they will constantly spam that Twitch chat. They will go crazy on Twitter. They'll be like, this brand does not work. You need, you know, to go to a consultancy company. You need to take education from someone like ESL or Kairos, and they're like, okay, we want to get into esports. How do we actually do it? How do we build that affinity with the community? How do we not, you know, get involved and then get sell out? Like it needs to be right.
And this is the thing, like playing off. I'm sorry if anyone's from Telefoconia or O2 in here, but there was a really bad ad that was 30 meters away from our office, where we advocate professional esports on a global level, saying, what if my child, is it all right that my child aspires to be an e-gamer, which A is the wrong term, B is very downgrading and alienating a huge community and doesn't help the growing audience prove to themselves. And it was almost, they were like, oh yeah, this esports thing. And the week before that ad went live, they were hosting the FIFA World Cup tournament, an esports tournament there. So there was this huge disconnect, and that then got publicized on Twitter, but for the wrong reasons. And people generally rang up and cancelled their contracts with that company because they weren't like talking. But there are so many people like us who can just tell you, yeah, that idea is awesome, but let's develop on it. This is the way this worked, this hasn't worked. Because our eyes as fans, even if you don't work in marketing, you could go to someone that runs a tournament that tells the players to get on the stage, and they know what successful ads have been in esports, because we're so passionate about what is put on our screens and what's put around us and our surroundings. You can do it right from the first day that you launch a campaign. You just need support. That's literally it.
Yeah, I think the likes of AMD and Intel, I think those guys are nailing it right now. They know that space. They're doing it very well. Instead of putting a TV advert as Twitch mid-rolls, they're getting influencers as the face of the advert. They're creating really cool, funny 30-second clips and then amplifying it via Twitch. So it's actually taking a really recognizable image or an influencer and then utilizing that across Facebook spend or media spend. So it's not just using a traditional celebrity, it's using actually people that are recognizable to the community that you're working with. So I think I've seen some stuff like Two Angry Gamers, Dr. Disrespect has done some really cool content as well, and it's really playing on their persona and their image online, and then trying to also get a mainstream audience from that.
And if I could quickly add, just real quick, sorry, I love to chat, but the amazing thing is everything's moving digital, and they're a great audience to almost get kind of the feel of how well digital marketing is working for you, how well paid promotion is on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube, and what content actually works. Because a Twitter video, even on a fan in esports, their retention is 4 seconds. That's all you've got before they scroll through. They're a scrolling generation. So it's like optimizing that, and then you can see that and then apply it into everything else you do in your marketing, because those behaviors of those people that are living online are going to marry and match up with the people that you don't have as much stats on.
And I think this is what we challenge every single day. Every single brand that we work with, it's a new opportunity, it's a new way for them to see their voice in this incredible community. But I think here's one I want to challenge. Now, so esports is not just one thing. People think esports and they think, cool, I'm going to sponsor esports. That's absolutely not possible. Esports is made up of so many different games across so many different verticals. You've got your CSGO through to your Call of Duty, through to your Fortnite, through to your Dota. I could go on. There's so many different verticals that are interesting here. And I think, so to give you some context as well, in July, the International Olympic Committee started discussing whether esports should be actually an Olympic sport. Set by 2024, so that's not exactly too long away either. Again, there was an article in the BBC, I think it was 2 days ago now, saying that esports is too violent. Discuss. What do you guys think?
Total bullshit.
It's so disheartening. It's so disheartening.
I think, so I don't know how many of you guys are aware, but I think the Madden shooting
Jacksonville,
was obviously a huge tragedy. So just to give you some context, there was a Madden tournament that went on, I believe like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and one of the players, I believe, got knocked out of the tournament and then actually shot people in Florida. And I think that made a catalyst of video games are too violent. But in reality, they're playing one of the most casual games in the world, which is sports NFL and sports. So I think, there's a lot of news articles that, are video games too violent? Obviously, we are slightly biased because we're in the video game industry. I don't think there is any violent correlation in the slightest.
I mean,
but
without video gaming, when I've got to travel the world and go places like Singapore and Johannesburg and places, I wouldn't have my other half. I wouldn't be the best bridesmaid or whatever, chief's bridesmaid to one of my friends that I met online's wedding next year. Like, how can that be violence? I found my place there.
I think you can just say that about anything though in the world, whether it's TV, if you're watching a war movie, oh no, I'm going to do that, I'm going to be violent because I'm watching, I don't believe it has any correlation at all, but also esports and gaming as a whole is so different. It's FIFA, it's CSGO, it's Call of Duty, there are so many different layers of gaming, people build friendships, get married from games, so it's insane. Like, I'm obviously, we're biased, but I'm totally against that.
And I can see the fear of the IOC, right? Because we're coming to this kind of junction at the moment where there's these debates of, does the IOC need us? Do we need them, as in esports, if we're going to just be general here? Do we need them? Where does that partnership form in the future?
I think it legitimizes it, though, to a mainstream audience. If gaming is in the Olympics, I think a mainstream audience will be like, okay, what is this? Okay, this is real. Okay, I'm going to pay attention to this, whereas they might not have had that exposure to it also.
Could you see it as a separate entity that the IOC runs in the professional way that they run the Olympics, but not call it the Olympics? So you've got the Olympics and you've got the subset of Paralympics. Sure. Could you not see esports, not directly in that Olympics week or month or whatever that period is, but could you see it as a subset in their calendar?
So taking worldwide players across a lot of different esport titles in an Olympic format, but not directly associated with the Olympics.
So WESG, WESG was like when countries versus countries, but that doesn't happen anymore. You get a team where it's like 4 Germans and 1 English guy, or you might get like a Swede, a North American guy, a Canadian guy, a guy from South Africa, a guy from South America, all playing in a team as well. So there was that kind of team country aspect.
Yeah, I think so in Call of Duty, X Gamer tried to do something similar. They had the professional dirt rally and that type of stuff, and then they made a Call of Duty tournament that was separate. They got gold medals, they got silver medals. There's a few $100,000 in prize pool. I think it would be cool. I think if you got 4 English FIFA players, let's say, for an English versus Germany, had like a country rivalry, and they get their support from their country, I think it does make ultimately esports and that just grow more popular. From a personal perspective, I would like it to become in the Olympics because it opens it up to a mainstream audience, and then bigger brands, whether it's a McDonald's or a KFC, are like, okay, I want to be associated with this. This is real. Whereas if it's not directly associated, they might be like, well, it's obviously not that legit if they're not going to put it there. So I see it from both sides of the spectrum, I guess.
Yeah, and just to kind of like, I think it's going to be really good. We had the IEM Pyeongchang. We had a StarCraft tournament, one of the oldest esports titles there probably is, at Pyeongchang with Intel. And Scarlett won it, a female won it, which is absolutely incredible story as well. But I think it will take time, and I think it's its own, personally, and with the ESL, we think it's its own ecosystem that can work with the IOC, but we would be interested to see how other people advise us as well. And we're actually taking advice from big brands that are involved with the Olympics, McDonald's and stuff, because we need to know how they feel about it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I'm cautious, but obviously running out of time right now. So we could go on about this for a very, very long time. And if anybody does want to sort of have communications about that in terms of how can you get into the world of esports, I'm sure we'd love to talk, Heather would love to talk as well, about the ways that we can potentially do that, but even just advisory, happy to do so. So hopefully that gives a good overview. I think I'm just going to close with asking our panelists here, one brand that you could bring into esports.
Apple.
Who would it be?
Apple on a global level, because it's Apple.
Just because it's Apple?
Yeah, I mean, well, one, they have so much money, so it would help propel esports into the next level. And then if you get Apple involved, everyone would see Apple and be like, okay, I need to get involved with this. This is the future, because Apple are known for cutting edge technology being the future of the generation. And if they get involved at a proper level, I think everybody would try and follow suit.
Another?
Vans. Like their clothing line, like if I could literally meet those guys and bring, it sounds really random, but like they make cool clothing, people wear it all the time. There would be an inventory slot for them where they could actually create some new stuff, a new line, maybe push their barriers of their thought processes on creation and be involved. That's probably my dream.
What brands do you feel aren't involved that should be involved? Because I think watch companies, because there's so much attention on
yeah.
hands.
I mean, Fitbit, for instance,
Yeah.
like heart rate and performance and things like that, definitely.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if the likes of Rolex and everybody aren't getting involved
Soon,
very,
yeah.
very, very soon. So
One for
we'll
the
see.
future. One for the future. Well, guys, thank you so much. Mike, Heather, and audience, thank you so much for everything. And I'll pass back over to our amazing host.
So maybe do not go yet. I would like to poll the audience. I'm sure all of us, we are in our own area of specialty. We have our own business or industry. So would you like to ask our panelists if your business is suitable for esports? Yeah. So
They're probably
so
too much to think
anyone
about
can
right now.
shout out. Okay, so we have our catch box. All right. We just test the idea. Tell us your business. Tell us your business and whether it is suitable. Yeah. Maybe you can just spare a minute. Just
Yeah, we'll jump
Do you
back.
want to come sit down?
Yeah.
Sure.
Sorry,
sure.
guys.
yeah. Please just sit back for a while. Okay. So very quickly, just tell us your business, and the panelists will tell us if it is suitable.
Vegan leather accessories.
Vegan accessories.
Yeah.
There are so many of my friends that work in esports and play esports that are vegans, so it's a huge talking point. Probably, yeah.
I was literally talking this week to somebody about doing a collaboration with a streetwear designer where we can produce something that would be attractive for e-gamers.
Okay,
So this has been a really interesting
Okay.
panel.
awesome.
All right. Awesome. Okay. Anyone else who wants to test, run your business? This is free advice.
I like
Yes,
the cube.
behind. Okay. Make it a short one.
Brilliant, Mike.
Luxury yachts.
Yachts.
Yachts, that would be
I
cool.
mean, yachts.
These
That would be so cool.
Yacht sales and yacht charters.
some of these guys are making some serious money. So
Like-
I think to give you, it could open up a potential new customer base as well. I mean, to give you some context, like the tournaments, especially as we mentioned, Dota, it's a $25 million prize pool. Like the team I own, we played for $3 million like, last week alone. So like, you know, these guys are earning big money, but also the average, the consumer as well, they spend more than the average
Yep.
person in terms.
Just also, the 25 million isn't just to the winners, that's a breakdown of prize pool. So if you come fourth, you're still probably taking, I can't remember the maths, but
I think like 2 mil or
yeah,
something.
2 mil or something. And some of the Dota 2 players, they are probably worth about 7 million
Yeah.
minimum, and they're in a casino at the end of the after party. You're like, oh, okay. So there is definitely a market. You should do some sly on the marketing in the player rooms.
Yeah, good earned media content strategy,
Yeah.
Brilliant.
gifting people experiences, doing some kind of competition.
Holidays on a yacht.
Yeah,
You've heard of a team house. They've got team.
Oh my goodness.
There you go. Perfect.
yeah. I think also these players, the players themselves, they also get, so instead of just the winnings that they get, they also get salaries from the organizations. So they get paid literally to play, and they get certain training. So they would get paid 10 grand a month or 20 grand a month to actually play for that specific team, just like a professional football athlete. So that's kind of the level that it's at now. Whereas again, I used to play, it was just for free, and now they get paid a salary to participate for the organization. You've got, buyout clauses for millions of pounds if you want to buy them out of a contract, just like football. So I think on the team house, yacht would be pretty damn cool. And
Having a LAN on a yacht is my dream.
that would
now.
get a lot of social interaction.
Dude,
So
that's so cool.
Okay,
That'd be good.
it's awesome. We can hook up rich and famous to esports. All right. So thank you very much once again to Mike, Heather, and Chris for your time.
Thank you.
Just want to make your time worth here. All right. So once again, let's give
Thank
a round
you.
of applause. Thank you very much.